Okay, here we go again. Apologies, my internet misbehaved there, but this is the last part of our discussion today. We were looking at at a scope of variables that we use, especially when we are dealing with functions. We've seen that there's what we call a global scope, that is a function or a variable that is defined outside the functions block. And then the variable inside the block of a function is at the local scope, and it is only accessible inside that function. For the one at global scope, it can be accessed anywhere in the program, including inside the block here. Okay, so let's try to do that here and we see. Um, let's assume we don't have x defined again here. We don't have x defined again there. So you're seeing now we are having, let's get rid of this z also. And we get rid of z. Okay. Get rid of this. Okay. So when we print this, when we print out that, okay. Yeah, there we go. We are having 15 as the answer for x minus y. So this program is able to identify and use x, although x is not defined inside the functions block, it is in the global scope. So a variable that is defined outside the function can even be accessed inside this function, but a variable defined inside the function cannot be accessed outside the function. That's the whole idea behind this. Okay, that is that. Okay, there's something I missed here. Okay, but we have a chance to modify a variable that is at global scope. Let's say I want the value of this x to change here. I don't want to have to use x as 20 here. I want it to be something else. So to do that, we use the global keyword. So we say global and then x. So this now gives us a chance to modify that x inside this function so that we can give it a value like 35. So you can now see our answer here has changed. It is giving us 30, implying it is doing 35 minus 5, so that's to give us 30. But here, when we print x, still we are having 35. So it means when you modify the global variable inside a function, it is modified globally. So even its value here, it is no longer 20, even if you see we are accessing it outside the function, but still it is giving us 35. I hope you have noted that. So if you want to modify a variable at the global scope, you use the global keyword, but you should know that when you modify it inside the function, it is even modified globally. That's the whole idea behind this. We have what we call built-in functions. You must have seen these ones already. And the print function, the one you interacted with first when you started programming, it is a function because it is not just by magic that you write print this and then it prints for you that. There is a code running behind that print function. The way you call your function here and say, excuse me, the way you just say print and then sub num, then you pass it something. There is a code running behind this sub num function, which you have defined here. It is defined here. So even the print function, for you to just say print x and it is able to do that, there is a function, there is a code behind the print function that does that thing of enabling you to print. So we have very many built-in functions that we use, and most of them we have used them already. The print function, there is the len function. This one returns for you the length or the number of elements in a certain object, maybe a string or anything. It returns for you the length. There is a code defined somewhere within Python to enable you to do that. Then int, this one is for casting, converting something from maybe string, and then you convert it to integer. There is a function behind, there is a code behind that function that enables you to do exactly what you do with it. Then the count, we used it with the tuples and append, used in lists and tuples. There is a code behind it. Hey, what's happening? Okay, there is a code behind it. Okay. Then we have what we call name equals, okay, main in Python. So this variable, it is a built-in variable that represents the name of the module being executed. When Python script is run directly, the name variable is set to main. However, when the script is imported as a module in another script, name holds the name of the module. This concept is useful for organizing code that can either be executed as a script or imported, and it helps to separate that should run only when the script is executed directly from the code, and that should run when imported as a module. So when using functions, you have a chance to import some stuff. We shall look at importing modules in details when we reach there, but I just want to do something small here. Okay. So this function here, inside this program of ours is called func.py, but we can also use this function in another program, just like you use print inside your program, but you don't have the whole implementation of print. You don't have the code behind print. That's the same thing with this. So I've created another file here. I'm calling it what? Let me call it file.py. Okay. Then inside this file, I want to use this subnum here. I want to be able to call this function, but from another file here. So in order to do that, you have to import this module here called func. So I would say import func. Okay, there we are. So when I say import func, it gives me the ability to use the objects or the code that is defined inside this file func. And now here I can be able to say I want to subtract for me some two numbers using the add. So here you say func dot add dot subnum. Then you put the numbers which you want to be subtracted. I want it to subtract, let me call it 4. Yeah, and there we go. We are having 31 there. So we have been able to use this function, although it is not defined here. The same way you keep using print. But for print, we don't import anything because it is a built-in function. We call it a built-in function. It comes pre-installed with Python. But here, if you want to define a function in one file and use it in another file, you have to import that file which contains that function like we have done here. And then when you're calling it, you use func dot. This dot here is used, it is used an access operator. It helps you to access. When we are reading this, we say inside the module called func dot access, we are trying to access this function inside this module. So we say inside func access sub name. That's how we can read this. But we do that after importing. So the importance of this variable here we are seeing, it helps us to separate the code that can be executed when the code is running directly and what runs when it's running in another module. So you can see, um, let me do this. Okay, undo. Inside this, I can say if name equals to main, and then now I define, I can call this here. I can say equals to z equals to 10. I can even call now my function from here. This is where you can call your function from and say print subname, and then you give it 5. And there you go, it is having 30. So it is running just normally the way it was running the other time. But when you include this part in your code, it helps you to separate. Now, if I'm running this program where I've defined this function, the code that is inside this block will run. But if I'm running it outside another file, let's say this one, when I'm just importing it, it will just import the part, it will just define or run the part inside this function only, and it won't run anything outside that. So that is the importance of using that variable. So during runtime, this name here is replaced by main, or the main block, or the main function, and it will assume you're running this script directly and it is not imported in another module. But here, what you define here won't be reflected this side. What will be reflected is what is in the functions block only, not anything else. Okay, that is that with that. Okay, take home for today. You will create a calculator function. Okay, how will you do that? You write a program that defines a function called calculator, which takes two numbers and an operator, which means your function is taking in three parameters, two numbers and an operator. Then the function should return the result based on the operator. Inside the function, declare local variables for each operation. Include a check for division by 0 and return an appropriate message. Add code under the if that block to test function with user input. Yeah. So I hope this will be simple for you. This is your take home for today to help you practice these concepts so that you can master them. Again, we are almost winding up with Python. Next week, we shall start doing AI. We shall start our AI series next week on Wednesday. The details about that session will be out in a little while, but what I am trying to call upon you to do right now is to master these concepts and make sure when we begin our AI series, you know most of these things and they don't give you a hard time. That's why we began with the Kab Python series to give you a good beginning to enter that part of AI, because we shall be using Python as the programming language when handling those series. So just get ready. By next week, we shall be doing that, but you should make sure you're practicing a lot. Otherwise, that is it from me today. Don't forget to subscribe. My name is Simon, and these are the Kab Python series.